Good evening, I'm Jeffrey Gurian.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and I'm Sonya Gignac.
And thank you, Sonya. And this is the news. On the crime scene, a schizophrenic man in the Bronx was absolutely shocked last night by his own murder. He says it came as a total surprise, and he hasn't been the same since. It seems the trouble all started when, for no apparent reason, he suddenly snuck up behind himself and wrestled himself to the ground. He tried to get away, but he was just too strong. The next thing he knew, he had grabbed a baseball bat and beat himself to death. Now, he says, things just don't feel the same. Back to you, Sonya.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Hernando Pinishvance is suing his parents for giving him two names that he feels don't go well together. He says that Hernando is an Hispanic name and has no business coming before the name Pinishvance. Now it's up to Judge Jorge von Vinvonwitz to decide whether the Pinishvance case has any merits. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Sonya. As disturbing a thought as this is, you're not even safe in Bloomingdale's anymore. Violence erupted in Bloomingdale's today when hundreds of men named Ed Dugafin all wanted to buy the same tie. Police arrested the worst of the offenders, Ed Dugafin of Queens, Ed Dugafin from Manhattan, Ed Dugafin from the Bronx, Ed Dugafin from Yonkers, Ed Dugafin from Montego Bay, and the alleged ringleader, Ed Dugafin from Ecuador. At least two other men, thought to be named Ed Dugafin, refused to say where they were from. None of the men are related. They claim it is merely a coincidence that their names are so similar. Their wives, Emma Dugafin, were still in the ladies' department arguing over a blouse. Back to you, Sonya.
Thank you, Jeffrey. In a kind of unusual bit of news, a 3-week-old infant in the Bronx went berserk today and killed his mother's common-law husband. The infant, whose name was withheld because of his age, had repeated run-ins with the law over the last 3 weeks. Police believe it may have been a dispute over money, citing that the infant had been distraught lately over not being able to find a job. And in a totally unrelated story, a maniac in Argentina tripped thousands of people on their way to work this morning. Most skinned their knees. However, one man fell and severely cracked his hair. An unruly crowd of psychologists quickly gathered, and the maniac was coddled to death before the police could arrive. Back to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Sonya. On a sadder note, today marks the anniversary of the passing of Abe Bembelman, the man who invented humming. Before Bembelman, people would hear a song they liked and have absolutely no way of recalling that tune. Many years later, during the Revolutionary War, it's said that the English hummed Bembelman's tunes while going into battle. Fortunately for us, the English hummed so loud that the Americans heard them coming, and that's how we won the war. Because basically, you can't sneak up on anyone while you're humming. And now to our woman in the field, our on-the-spot reporter, Sonya Gignac, with some late-breaking news. Sonya, can you hear me? Come in, Sonya.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I can hear you loud and clear. In this late-breaking, unbelievable story, it seems that two men claiming to be friends of the Pope forced their way into a bodega in Spanish Harlem today, making off with the day's receipts. Apprehended by police, the two men first tried bribing the officers, and when that didn't work, they threatened to tell the Pope. The men were released after their bail was mysteriously posted from somewhere overseas, and they are currently living in the waiting room of a local dental office. Back to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Sonya. Coming up in our later broadcast, we will bring you these interesting stories. The story of men who introduce people to articles of their clothing.
Followed by a second story of men who enjoy Latin dancing with tools. Jeffrey?
Followed by still a third story of men who laugh at these other two groups of men. Sonya?
Thank you, Jeffrey. We'll bring you the story of a man who carries his mustache in his wallet.
Followed by an in-depth look at small groups of men who enjoy dancing to the news.
And the true story of men who pinch themselves on the abdomen with a hot pair of pliers.
We'll have a segment on emotional reunions, like the touching reunion of two men who once cleared their throats together in the men's room of a local theater.
Followed by the equally touching reunion of two total strangers who once sneezed at the exact same time while away on vacation.
Followed by the absolutely heart-wrenching reunion of a man with people he never met before and who couldn't care less.
Thank you, Jeffrey. On the local scene, an elderly man named Abe Velocipede declared himself mayor of New York City today after holding a private election alone in his room. Running unopposed, it was still pretty close, with Velocipede winning by just one vote, his own. He celebrated his overwhelming win with a one-man parade down Fifth Avenue, gave a speech to a man walking near him, then ran back to his room to work on the budget.
Thank you, Sonya. And for our final item of the evening, in a heartwarming New York story, a couple met and married today after being stuck for 3 hours on an escalator. They both speak English and live in Manhattan. Having so much in common, they decided to tie the knot. He is 26, white, and owns several of his own shoes. She is in her mid to late 70s, is black, and claims to be one of the first Russian cosmonauts. The couple say they will start out by buying their own home until they can save up enough money to rent an apartment. That's the news. I've been Jeffrey Gurian.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and I've been Sonya Gignac.
And thank you, Sonya.
And thank you all, and good night.